Good morning, everybody. You are currently listening to a Tall Girls podcast hosted by a tall girl named India. I hope you're having a fantabulous day with a capital F. Before I get into this episode, I do want to say make sure you are following me on my socials at a Tall Girls podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest for super awesome, super relatable tall girl content and all of the updates on my latest podcast episodes, so you know when they're being released. I mean, it's released same day, same day, same time. Every Thursday at 1 p.m. EST, Eastern Standard Time. So, but just still follow those accounts anyways, so you can get reminders. They'll all be linked below, so it's super easy for you to check out. So you just check it out in the description box. Make sure you check it out after this episode, because you gotta listen first and then you could go follow. And when you go down to the description box, you're also gonna see a link for reviews. So if you want to leave me a nice little review telling me how tall you are and, did this podcast help you? What you find entertaining about it and stuff like that? Some of you guys have already done it, and I really do appreciate all of the reviews I've gotten. So yeah, make sure you follow me on my socials and leave me a review. Okay, let's stop with all this jibber jabber. Today we are talking about isolation. Well, specifically self-isolation. It's the kind of thing where you kind of cut yourself off from the world. Not necessarily completely. I mean, you may still have contact with the people that you live with, of course, or very close ones that you choose to keep in your life, but you spend a majority of the time by yourself, with yourself, if that makes sense. And that also kind of includes just getting rid of social media or extremely limited social media use. Some people even delete their accounts completely. I actually did that. I deleted all I had was Instagram. So I just deleted my Instagram account. But some people just completely delete their social media accounts, kind of go off the grid in a way. And this episode was inspired by a TikTok. Oh my gosh, I feel like so many of my episodes these days are inspired by TikTok. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. I just think that TikTok opens your mind and opens your mind and your eyes to a lot of things about life in general, and that's what I absolutely love. Well, one of the things that I absolutely love about TikTok, there's just so many realizations, so many eye-opening things on there. Anyway, so this video was there's so much that you learn about yourself, and there's so much growth in isolating yourself. And I couldn't agree more, speaking from experience. So I just wanted to share my experience, kind of self-isolating and how it really helped me with my journey, my self-love journey, and my body confidence, height confidence. I don't even know, same thing, but that journey as well. And yeah, so I'm just gonna get into it. I first started isolating myself about 2.5 years ago ish. So when I first graduated from high school, that was in 2020. So I guess you could say summer of 2020. Oh my gosh. The most horrendous time period so far in the 2000s. Well, not the most horrendous. One of the most horrendous time periods in the 2000s. Most horrendous to me because I wasn't born in certain other events. But we're not going to get into that. But I kind of just disappeared in a way. I didn't really hang out with my friends like that. I didn't talk to too many people. I didn't talk to too many other family members even. I just, for the most part, stuck to myself. First off, 0 out of 10, not even 0 out of 10, like negative 72, negative 100 out of 10. would not recommend that, because I'm just gonna admit it's toxic. It's toxic, let's face it. Disappearing without saying a word, disappearing without warning, just completely ghosting people, not saying anything to them, especially the ones that you care about and the ones that care about you, and just up and leaving like that, it's toxic. It's not a good thing for either party. And you know what? I do have to admit that it was one of my toxic traits. Keyword was, okay, we've grown since then. But I also have to take accountability for my actions. And this is what I'm doing right now. It was one of my toxic traits, and I probably shouldn't have done that. Just up and left people without any word whatsoever. It's not a good thing, but that is just exactly what I did. And it was hard. It was really, really hard for me. I am an extremely social person. I thrive off of social interaction. I love talking. As you could probably tell, one of the reasons why I have a podcast, I just absolutely love talking. I like being around people. I feed off of their energy, but I just feel like it got to the point where I just did it too much. I thrived off of social interaction too much. I talked too much. Well, for me, there's never really talking too much, you know? It's always too little or never, or too little or enough. Never really too much, but I don't know. I'm just gonna say talked too much. It was just too much, just being around people all the time and not really spending time with myself, but that was all that I was used to. So just abruptly not surrounding myself with other people was extremely hard. But for some reason at that time, I felt like it was something that I needed to do, because my energy, I guess, depended too much on other people and having other people around me. And I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think anybody would think that's a good thing, but depending too much on somebody for one particular thing, it's not good. It kind of takes a blow on your self-confidence, because it's like you can't really do it yourself. You can't do it for yourself. Like, this is you're talking about. You have to protect your energy. You have to bring yourself up. You have to calm yourself down when you're angry. You have to be there for yourself. So constantly relying on other people, it's like, wow, like I can't even do that for myself, you know? So that was just a time where I had to force myself to be isolated. And that time period after I graduated, the summer after I graduated, summer 2020, we're in summer 2022 right now, but summer 2020 was like the perfect time for that, because I wasn't going anywhere. I mean, things were closing down. I'm pretty sure it was closing down for you too. There was virtually nowhere else to go besides from your bedroom to your kitchen. Let's just put it that way. So good timing for that, I guess. But yeah, it just felt really quiet. It felt really lonely. And I really did feel at times that my thoughts were just going in a very dark place, very dark, very bad place. I did not want my thoughts to go there at all. I never really imagined that it would go there either. But during that time, I did not realize how much time I had to think, if that makes any sense. Like, being around people all the time, you can't just think for yourself, because you're constantly surrounded by other people's thoughts and ideas and personalities that it's hard to really develop your own, if you get what I'm putting down. You're constantly around other people's thoughts, ideas, and personalities, and eventually those ideas, thoughts, and personalities become your own. You don't have this sense of self-identity. You become multiple versions of other people but not really yourself, if I'm making sense. And when I was alone for much of my days, I just found myself thinking a lot about what I wanted to do with my life. What are my goals? What career do I want to have? What type of people do I want to surround myself with? And I couldn't do that around other people because other people are talking about their goals, their careers, and you start to think, oh, their career sounds kind of cool. Maybe it's something that, I would want to do too, since I like hanging out with them. And that's not always the case. Sometimes it can be the case, and sometimes it is not the case. But in those instances, it just was not the case. And it gets really scary. It gets really scary how many freaking thoughts run through your head to the point where you get anxious. But in isolating yourself, you don't really have anybody to talk to about it, I mean, you do, but sometimes you feel like you don't have anybody to talk to. I could have spoken to anybody. I could have picked up the phone and spoken to anybody, but I don't know. I just didn't. I felt like I didn't want people to think that I was laying out all their problems on them, and I didn't want to feel like I was doing that either. It was something that I just wanted to force myself to figure out myself. And it feels like like I said before, it feels lonely, but there's a difference between lonely and alone. And I think that at that point, when I realized that I was not going to talk to anybody about all my thoughts, that was kind of me transitioning from lonely to alone, because it's like I don't have anybody to talk to, but I do. I could talk to myself. And I know it may sound weird to talk to yourself, but hey, listen, the most intelligent people talk to themselves, okay? I think it's quite healthy for your mental health to have a conversation with yourself. So I don't think that talking to yourself is a bad thing. So if you talk to yourself, not a bad thing at all. But I just wanted to figure it out without having to depend on anyone else. And that is kind of empowering, because you don't just want to sit there and go bonkers in your head. Like, you don't want to sit in the corner of your room with all your thoughts and you're just like, oh my gosh, like, this is insane. I don't know. There's too many thoughts. It could feel like too many thoughts. And I think that's probably why people recommend journaling. So you could just write it all down somewhere. You can read it back to yourself at some point and just kind of get your ideas organized. I'm not really a journal person, so that's why I kind of talk to myself out loud too. But something has to change. Something had to change. Things have to change. Habits have to change. I had to change. The people around me had to change. Not necessarily forcing that person to change, but, kind of getting rid of some people and just bringing in new people, So you go from having a bunch of time, just sitting with your thoughts, overthinking, that's the word, overthinking, to actually filling up your time with things that you believe will better you. I started going on walks for my mental health. I started looking into freelancing for my career. I even started this podcast, and here we are, over 1 year strong. And mind you, all of this started happening towards the end of this whole self-isolation period. So I dealt with over a year of self-isolation, but I also dealt with over a year of self-doubt and negative thoughts and, oh, why am I so ugly? Or even, why am I so tall? Why do I look like a man? Why am I so mannish? Or why am I still broke? Or why does no one like me? But the thing is, you have to think to yourself that no one else is telling you this, because no one else is around you. You're not talking to other people. You're not surrounding yourself with other people. Literally no one else is telling you this except for you. You are the one that's telling you this. These are your thoughts. you know? So I thought that I was ugly. I thought that I was broken. I was not going to find a career that I was passionate about and still have some type of income from it. I thought that I wasn't worth hanging out with. I didn't like me. Like, I did not like myself. I did not think that I was capable. I did not think I was worthy or loved. This was all coming from me. And the next day, you just gotta wake up and look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, like, do I continue this toxic cycle or do I try to turn myself around? And that's something that we're faced with every single day. We wake up, look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, do I continue to repeat the toxic habits that I have? Do I continue to repeat all of the toxic things that I'm saying to myself? Do I continue to repeat just wallowing to myself? Does that make sense? But just being depressed, not being depressed, but being depressed. I don't even know if that makes sense because it's not like actual terrible, like diagnosed by a professional depressed, but depressed like you're just in your own head overthinking and you making yourself sad over it. So are you going to continue repeating that? Or are you going to try to turn your life around? Not like abruptly, of course, but one thing at a time, you know? Change one bad habit into a good habit and try to stick with that for 3 months. Talking nicely to yourself, going out for a walk, going to the gym, eating strawberries, you know, reading a book, meeting one new person on the street, something, anything, one step at a time to try to turn your life around. And then, well, that's what I did. And then it just got to the point where it was so bad for me, my overthinking and my anxiousness, that I was like, might as well give it a try. Might as well give turning my life around a try, because it literally cannot get any worse than this. That's how bad it was. It can't get worse than this. So just trying to fake it at first, even. That's how I started. I was just faking it. Faking my affirmations in the morning, saying I am beautiful, I am worthy, I am awesome, all that good stuff. I faked it until one day I just started believing it. And that's the power of repetition, you know? That's just like great example. Studying for an exam. You read the information over and over. You look at the formulas over and over. You practice the practice problems over and over until eventually you remember. It gets ingrained in your brain. Another example, music. When you first hear a song on the radio and you just don't like it, you don't like it, it just doesn't work for you, but they keep playing it over and over and over again, and eventually it gets stuck in your head and you start liking it. That is similar to the, what's it called? Affirmations to yourself. You know, you start out not liking yourself. You start out not liking saying nice things to yourself, but you keep doing it anyways. You keep playing it over and over in your head, like you play that weird song. Well, that song that was weird to you at first, because now you like it. And then you repeat the affirmations over and over to yourself, and then you eventually start to like yourself. The thing you once didn't like, you now like. And it's the same thing with the song. The song you once did not like, that you heard over and over again, now you're starting to like. Might as well give it a try. And here we are. That's basically what happened with me. Kept saying my affirmations to myself, and weeks later, I started to actually like myself. It's crazy how the brain works. But yeah, that was just my experience with self-isolation. And I'm not saying that you have to do it, because the way I did it, it was honestly not a good idea. The way I started it out, that's probably why it was so hard at first, because I could have probably approached it a little better. But I just want to say that self-isolation can really help in your self-love, self-confidence, your journey to growth, to your higher self. It really can, and it's something to consider. So I just wanted to share my experience. So if you decide to try it, you kind of know what to expect. Everybody's experience is different, of course, but if it looks similar to mine, you know that you are not the only person that's going through it. So, yeah. I'm not saying I recommend it. I'm not saying I don't recommend it. Just sharing my experience. And then from there, you can decide for yourself whether or not it's something you can try. So, yeah, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Gosh, it's so long. I'm glad that you stayed to the end. If you did, I really do appreciate you. As always, feel free to hit me up on my socials at A Tall Girls Podcast on Pinterest, Instagram, and TikTok. You can hit me up and let me know what episodes you want to do. You can let me know if you liked this episode, if you didn't like this episode, what I could have done better, what I could do less of, stuff like that. Any feedback is good. I appreciate all the great comments that you guys have been giving me. Also, feel free to leave me a review below. Let me know how tall you are and what you like and dislike or whatever about this podcast. And yeah, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, week, month, year, whatever it may be. And I'll catch you in the next one. Good night and goodbye.